Warwick Homestead has one of the largest open flat areas you can build anywhere in Fallout 4, but it also has a lot of large pre-existing structures that can't be scrapped. Join me as we take a look at how I've managed to use both the empty space and make use of the existing buildings. Can I do this in a realistic and lore-friendly way? Can we tie this into the narrative of my other builds? And can we add in some fun and interactive features? Join me for another strictly no mods tour. Coming up next on Fallout Play Build Collect. Massive welcome or welcome back to Fallout Play Build Collect. So here we are at Warwick Homestead. This one has been a long time coming. Big thanks for supporting me and the channel while I've been out of action. This one ties in with the previous build, the castle. More about that as we go through. We can see here the defences from the outside. I have these angled concrete walls with the machine gun turrets, and these lovely barbed wire emplacements in front of them. And as usual, this is a no mods build. Even the materials were collected naturally during gameplay. As we come through the main entrance, you'll notice this is from the same playthrough, so we still have the Minutemen branding. And on the left here we have a guard post with our sentry. And on the right here we have our caravan stop for the local traders. One of the main benefits of this place is its massive size, but you can see the downside there as it's not even drawing in the buildings on the far end. I broke this one down into 7 or 8 different sections, each with their own function, and this very much ties in with the previous build at the castle. Plus make sure you stay tuned for the night tour. This one looks really good lit up at night. The height limit's quite generous in this settlement, and you can see there I've built on the side of and top of the main building. Also managed to add some cool interactive features up there. Looks like we have Lucas playing us a visit today, and it's a good job the guard post is there because we want to keep an eye on him. You shouldn't trust him. Barbed wire spikes behind the walls. I love these things. It means you get a real nasty surprise if you try to climb over. Got some fish there. I think it makes sense as we're on the coast to be selling some fish to the local traders. And there's more on how they catch the fish as we move down the settlement. If you remember the Taffington boathouse build, I mentioned how I really like these wire walls in the water. And I was going to find another place to use them. Well, here they are. Great how that little gun turret fits on the rocky outcrop too. Now we turn our attention to something I've been trying to fit into a build for a long time, and that's this helipad. It took a lot of experimenting to figure out how to make this pattern work, and to get these light conduits to line up around the outside. But I think it was worth it because it looks fantastic when you land the vertibird here at night with it all lit up. If you'd like to see some footage of the vertibird landing and taking off from here, stay tuned to my Patreon. I'm going to be putting some extra videos of these builds over on Patreon very soon. Also, I made a video about how to operate the vertibird, so if you're curious about that, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Made good thematic sense, I think, just to have some storage containers and some workbenches over by the forklift round the back there. Decided to keep this massive open area with the plough ground as a farm. I think it makes sense to produce a lot of food in areas where there's lots of purified water. Over in this back corner, I've built this dock area. There's also a fishing area over here. You could load or unload goods from small or even large boats from these two docks, maybe even vertibirds too. Of course, also possible the settlers might use these as additional fishing spots. In fact, I mentioned the fishing theme earlier, and you can see I've lent very heavily into this with this whole back building area. Though this building could be used for general storage, you can see they've got their nets, their crates, all of their floats, everything they need for their fishing activities are down here. This is also an excellent place for defence if they were to get attacked from the water, and I'll show a bit more of the defensive side of this when we go on top. You can see we have the lobster crates here and some more fishing paraphernalia, and there's this stairway here, and there is some radiation suits just up top there, so you could walk down into the water if you had sufficient protection. I really wanted to try and build over in this back corner to make use of this lovely walkway that goes around the water tanks. This pathway runs all the way around the back here, and it just seems like a lovely little feature in the settlement that is just very rarely used. It was very difficult to get a building to snap into this area. I've used the concrete sections because obviously they give a little bit of variance on height, and they're a bit more forgiving with their snap physics. You can see I've made this deck area and this very ramshackle walkway going over the first water tank here. That leads up to our light signalling beacon, and you may have seen a similar one over at the castle. We'll get to that in a second. Use this rear storage room as an area where they could come and change into their protective clothing. We have the lockers there, and the mannequins with all their workwear. We have the power armor suit and stand, and I guess they would use this for both defense and construction. And we have a scavenging station. If you're new to the game, some of the items I show in my builds may be a little bit unusual to you. If you're uncertain as to where anything comes from, just drop me a message and I'll point you to the relevant content. Don't forget this is a no mods build and everything here is official content. This upper deck here is mostly loaded with more seaside defences. But let's head back over the ramshackle bridge and we'll head up to the signalling beacon. As I mentioned earlier, this one ties into the castle, and I just wanted to say a massive thank you for making that castle build such an enormous success. I really was blown away by the support you gave that one. And this is exactly the same as the one in the castle. We have these light boxes controlled by that terminal, so you can change the colour of the light boxes. And my idea here, if you haven't seen the previous one, is that you change the colour to signal both Spectacle Island over there and the castle. The idea is the three settlements can simply signal to each other as by what colour the boxes are on. As you probably know, the weather here is almost always awful. I think it makes a lot of sense that they could signal each other with the bright lights through the fog. I also have a flashing warning beacon to make sure any of the vertibirds flying backwards and forwards don't bump into this tower. And you'll probably notice the wiring of this whole thing was really complicated. Now we're heading to the maintenance room where we have some power generators, and you can see here the security camera. There was another camera near the front entrance, and these things are brilliant, and I'll show you a bit more of how they work as we go on. I put the old-fashioned fossil fuel generators here in this room. I think it suits the ramshackle run-down look of the place. And you can see I've used the wall pass-through conduits to wire this all up. Let's head outside to the water purification area. Obviously with these huge water tanks it makes a lot of sense to put our water purifiers here. Between this, the castle and my Egrets Tours Marina build, you can produce a colossal amount of water for your chosen faction. This leads us to my construction on top of the main building. I decided I wanted to build up there, but one of the main problems was how to get up there, and building a staircase was very tricky. And I came up with the idea of building this second building on what is like this ledge that's on the outside there. I decided to turn this into a security room. It made sense to restrict access to the roof. And I also needed somewhere to put the screens to monitor the security cameras that are around the settlement. It was a huge spot of luck that these desks happen to fit the space perfectly. And I think the monitor system looks great on the wall. If you're not familiar with this is from the Settlement Ambush Kit, which was Creation Club content, and quite frankly I think it's probably the best Creation Club content there was. A lot of the items around this settlement came from this content, and I'll just show you quickly how this works. You simply just click the button and cycle through all of the cameras you have at all of your different settlements. It gives this wonderfully old school grainy flickery security camera feeds. And you can see here I have a camera monitoring the front gate, one over the water purifiers, one at the back there as you saw. Here's the one over the front gate as I mentioned. This doesn't really serve a great deal of purpose. It's for people like me who like that roleplay headcanon type of stuff, but I really love them. If you're interested in this content, I'll leave a link to the Nukipedia page for it so you can see everything that's included in the package. A few crates here under the stairs. I couldn't really go too crazy with the junk decoration because even with resets we're really right on the limit of what Xbox can handle. So first up on the roof we have the reactor building. If you've seen a lot of my other builds you know I don't use these atomic reactors very often, but when I do I like to keep them up and out of the way like this. It makes it very difficult for raiders and attackers to get to them. I like putting those big computer monitoring terminals with this, and I have a tool station there which makes a lot of sense I think. And you'll notice here we have a very strange shadow glitch that seems to affect the colours up here. It comes and goes depending on what angle you're looking at them at. I'm guessing this is just one of those weird Bethesda glitches. Can be a little bit distracting, but I guess Bethesda are not going to do anything about it 8 years later. I did this office and storage room on the back. I think it's really logical you'd need an office to keep track of all of the records of the maintenance of something like this. Some storage lockers there too, so you could keep your protective equipment and clothing in those. The atomic generator made a lot of sense in this one. I've got a much higher power draw than usual. I've got some heavy laser turrets, the water purifiers, the camera system. It all used a lot of power. See some of the power cables there. This was a very tricky settlement to wire up. I wanted to add some defences on the rear side of the settlement, and it dawned on me being up high like this would give you a great view of the surrounding area up here. Now sadly due to the fog you can't see a lot at the moment. I have put a weather shell up. By the time I get up here it's foggy again. I filmed this 3 times and by every time I got up here it was just either foggy or raining, so I gave up in the end. I have the recruitment beacon up there. And you can see there's a couple of nice spots that you could monitor your own settlement or to see anyone approaching for the whole area around. You could also use this other decking area above the security room. I've railing this off So the security guard can come up here and just have a look around at the settlement. Now if I cheat a little and I just jump down onto this other ledge, you can see I have some power and defences here. The idea here originally was I was going to put a flight control room here. Like I said, even with a number of resets, we're right on the limit of what Xbox can handle. Thought it would have been nice to have some sort of air traffic control for the helipad, but I'll settle for these defences and an extra camera. Second radar beacon there, by the way, that's part of the settlement ambush kit, and that's how you trigger the attacks on your settlement. Finally we come to the interior of the main building. The sentries get up here and patrol around quite nicely, and it seems like a sensible place to put the rad arch. Some fruit machines here for some extra entertainment and caps income. General store next for both the traders and the residents. Small waiting area to see the doctor or to buy some chems. And of course the resident beds at the back could double as doctor's beds if needed. I'm guessing this settlement would be quite a harsh place to live and work, so I wanted to make sure the interior kept that dingy kind of feel to it. Had that really basic Spartan eating area there, and some grimy sleeping bags on the floor for the traders just passing through. Really like the effect of how that steam vents from the machines around the room. I wanted to make sure I didn't do anything to hide that or cover that up. I really like that effect. As I said earlier, this settlement looks really nice when lit up at night, so let's get over to the night tour now. Just before we get to that though, I want to say thank you for sticking with me all the way through the video. Really appreciate your company. If you're enjoying this build tour, there's a really good chance you'll like most of my other builds. If you haven't seen them, there's lots more on the channel. I'll leave a link to the castle video at the end of this one, and a link to the playlist for all the other settlement tours. As we head up to the main entrance, you can see these fire barrels marking where the entrance is. You can see one of the provisioners turning up here. And as our guard heads out to patrol, you can see these wonderful moving spotlights just under the security camera. They proved very popular on the Red Rocket build. I think they add a lot of mood and atmosphere to your settlement. The only downside, of course, is they do use a bit of power, and you have to use quite a few of them if you want to get good light coverage. Next up, you can see the landing pad all lit up here with the lights around it. This was really difficult to get aligned, as I said earlier. Just had to be patient and persistent with it. And that tower light there, I think it gives a nice little beacon for the pilot when he's coming in. There's a lot of individual lights at the rear docks and storage area, including another one of the pulsing beacons. I think that would be great for any passing sea traffic, or of course anybody in the vertibirds. As always, if you've got any questions about how any of this was done, just drop me a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And of course the signal beacon looks much better at night. It is of course much easier to see the different colours in the darkness. Some lovely light reflections on these wet power generators. I used the warm white lights for the security room, as I feel it's a better match for the colour from the monitors. And they match the bright white light in the Vortec room signs. You'll notice in the reactor room I've used the green and red warning lights, and there's also a bench light above the bench. And you'll notice at night the strange shadow glitch disappears. I've used this lovely blue light for the office. Use that blue light now quite a bit in technical areas. And again you'll notice in this back area the shadow glitch is completely absent here as well. Also use these orange lamps quite a bit. I think they also look like a heater, not just a lamp. You might have also noticed those on the walls of the power armour room. And if I look up you can see again these cyan blue lights throughout the buildings. They give a lovely hue to the building both inside and out. You might also notice I tend to use the ceiling fans quite a bit. It adds a little bit of motion to the room which makes it feel a bit more alive. I didn't add the red flashing lights on top of the silos, they're already part of the settlement. And you can see the helipad here lit up from above. And just a quick note that this attack beacon here comes with this lovely orange strobe light on the side. These strobe lights, if you use mods, there are mods that add these into the build system, and I've used them on quite a few of my modded settlements. As always, I really look forward to hearing your comments and questions on this one. Don't hesitate to drop me a line, get in touch with me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Stay tuned for some suggestions of what to watch next. And don't forget you can support me here on YouTube, on Patreon, or over on Buy Me a Coffee. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.